Hello, everybody. It is that time of the week. It is your illustrious host, Dragon's Fury and Infernal Drake.
I'll be all been having a good week.
And if not, we hope this episode helps. Bear with me. I am suffering from allergies, so I do apologize for the sound sounding nasally and or congested or all of the above.
Yeah, it'd be that time of year where the trees decide to pollinate the world and make people suffer.
And mine are through the roof. This has been the worst year so far, and I am not taking it well. That being said, we are going to jump right on into it because I have a limited capacity of a nasal passageways, and I want to use it to the best of our
Breathing.
ability. So, for the next installment of the deep dive series, we are going to be talking about Steven Universe. Whoa! Um, and I mean that with all sincerity. Steven Universe is a solid show, but it is going to seem like I don't think that due to what I'm going to say in the coming minutes of this episode, because it is a deep dive, and it's not a deep dive with Dragon if he's not bitching. Um,
Yeah, I mean that should be on our shirt.
oh, that was funny. So let's get
It
the
ain't, it ain't a deep dive unless he bitching.
yep. So the big thing being, it is definitely a unique show, hands down. It was around 2013, 2019 of its run, and give or take 150 esque episodes. Like it was doing what it do. Definitely had a interesting approach to telling a story and way of character development on these good things. So that's not what we're here about today. We're here to dive a little bit deeper, to go below the surface of things. This does stem from a conversation that I had with Sham Sham, and it was about how this show was very give and take, and it gave so many things of like story of being like, oh, this is great, what's happening, we're moving the story along. At the same time, you will get, the fuck is this, like, why
Like
are
it,
we doing
like it,
this?
like it backtracked a bit.
Less of backtrack, more of jumped the track. So we would
Oh,
go with a, for example, we had the main continuity of like what was happening before the big reveal, right? So it was going along with everything of what we knew of the universe that was built, right? You have the crystal gems being our pro tags, and you have the diamonds being our antags, right?
yes.
And they're telling this story, and you're good. You're like, oh, okay. So it's like, hey, this is happening over here. This is happening here. Like these are like our freedom fighters, if you will, and their
Sammy
leader
Rashawn.
had a kid, right? But due to the nature of their species, having a kid is a complicated thing, which is part of where the issue I had with some of the story was that within universe, they will dictate being like, okay, the gems are essentially these light construct beings, right? And they
Okay,
have
yeah.
the ability to take whatever form they wish, so choose, and their form is pretty much a physical manifestation of their mind, and that's pretty much how that is settled, right? Then here comes along Steven, where it's like, oh, well, they kind of had a kid. I was like, all right. Now, for those of you who are not of age and don't know how that works, you shouldn't be here.
How'd you get here?
How'd you get here? There, without you, it is a child, a more child-friendly program. Like, it did have a PG rating, so it's like, it is parental guidance, meaning that like there's certain things that you may have to explain to them later. This is one of those things. If you are giving, and well before they give like a full explanation of like how gyms like came to be, like it was like, oh, they are basically grown out of the resources of a planet, and then of that planet you just kind of hollow out its sources until it's done for, and then you move on to the next one. Very galactic-y, right? And very concrete,
Yeah.
right? It's like, so before we get like a real deep dive explanation of that, we kind of get like this general idea that, okay, this is her child, which it is for all intents and purposes of the story. Where
Steven is her kid.
right, it is her kid, right? It's just, to frame it in the fact of it being a biological kid is where things get a little weird, right? So it's like, hey, these guys, this species doesn't reproduce like this. So fundamentally, this
Life
isn't
finds a way.
possible. That is the greatest way to put what happened with this. Like, life found a way. This is quintessential. Humans will reproduce with anything, and it shows. Like, so it's like, okay, it's kind of weird, right? But it's not huge of an hang up. It's just like kind of one of those things where it's like, this is just kind of weird, right? Another thing that kind of was a bit of a hang up for me was certain points of the story kind of just drug on, or they never really resolved it fast enough. Where, for example, without ruining too much, did you ever actually watch it?
I watched maybe like half of it. I mean, I know like a lot of stuff that happens, so.
Okay, well then I no longer will try to beat around the bush for
Oh
the
yeah,
consideration.
don't be around the bush.
Um,
Release.
it really helped. So you get your ultimate reveal of like who the diamonds are, being the big antagonists of the story, the hierarchy of the species, and Rose ultimately being one of them, because she decided to pull a Lucifer Regard moment. She's like, hey, I don't like how things are going. I'm going to rebel. So she fakes her own death and basically tells her, right hand
Earl.
person that don't tell them. Don't tell anybody. It's me. I did the thing. I'm running away. You're running away with me. We're going to start a whole ass rebellion. We're going to go piss off my mom, sister, or whatever you want to call it. And then we are going to, live the life how we want to. Hey, do what you want, how you want, whatever. The consequences that's definitely ensued was on such a universal scale, it was ridiculous. Like, her decision to jump ship single-handedly created and almost destroyed Earth. Like,
Yeah.
which, stories moving along. But in those, like, kind of faults is where it also, like, shined, because you get this interesting level of development, and it wasn't a linear kind of progression upwards to, hey, this is the better version of myself. It was a more reasonable and relatable progression, which I appreciated, because no one just does a thing, realizes it's not okay, learns from their mistakes, and then just automatically is better. It takes steps. You kind of get a little bit better, you kind of fall back. You you work that much harder to, improve yourself, you can also have the same bit of a fallback. And all of the characters had that, and all of them had time to do that. And so, like, it was never rushed. It was all everyone felt like they had their time to expand, and then also their development wasn't necessarily at the same rate. People that, for example, like Pearl, you thought in the beginning was more stagnant. She was just always the one that seemed to have it together until you get later on where you have the whole incident with her and Garnet of being kind of like, I don't want to say pushy, but definitely manipulative in what she was trying to accomplish, which was just being able to fuse with Garnet, which, for those who don't know, is essentially this. What is the best equivalent way?
Ha.
So, their version
It's
of
literally
fusion,
a fusion dance.
yes, but instead of it being like, oh, hey, we are combining our powers and a new entity exists, it's, hey, we are emotionally connected beforehand. And that's what allowed us to then create this new entity and personality of a person based off of our prior connection to each other. So it was well more of like that undertone of, hey, the relationship needs to be strong and stable before you go into this huge thing.
Which is why they had to dance first to build that connection, and then later on they didn't even need to dance. They just touch each other and boom.
Yeah, it was more of a, I think that was just a very good mechanic of that level of connectivity. It was, hey, we're at this level where we can match wavelengths and then we're good. Like, you basically, it's with like anybody, like think of it like that good coworker, that your work bestie, right? You are always in sync with your work bestie. Everything seems, on par, everything's good or whatever, but you're not necessarily the perfect match outside of that scenario. And that's what I felt like the dance represented. In this scenario, we are in sync, we are complementary to each other. This is why this works. And as you mentioned, later on, when the development becomes more and they've gone through more stuff together and they actually have a better connection with each other emotionally, then it's like, yeah, boom, we did it. And I think that's what fusion really was. I think the dance was kind of that mechanism to figure out how to make it work versus this is how it's supposed to work. And again, a great thing, a great mechanic, great unique way of telling that story of these emotional relationships that are being developed, since that's their whole thing. The whole shtick is they're just these emotional light creatures, and based off of their emotional state determines how they function at all.
Can they function? Who knows?
Yeah, they function. So a lot of that was, well put together. You had a lot of the side characters getting some time, bringing in some side characters. Like, I did like Lars. I don't feel like he got enough time. I feel like,
which one Lars is.
So Lars was the would-be bully that worked at the donut shop with the gauges. Yeah. Who basically
he was the one that got turned pink, didn't he?
Yeah, because he died. Then he got revived and ended up turning pink because apparently that's what happens when Pink uses her necromancy powers.
I mean, I guess that kind of makes sense.
I mean, that's what she was. She was the necromancer of the five. How many? Because it was pink, blue, yellow, white. So of the four of them, she was basically like the necromancer, and they had their own like set. It was like, one is like the emotional state, one is like the physical state. You had the kind of like bringing the light, like pink was like kind of like putting the life into it, and then white is the, I forget what they were like trying to say she represented.
Yeah, I'm not sure about white.
The because it's not, I wouldn't say it's the form, like what. Because it was control, maybe.
I mean that makes sense because like when White was showing off her powers, like she was literally controlling everyone.
Right. So I would then, yeah, it's so it would be control, form, mind, and then
Unless because
light.
because if you think about White is all the colors, so
So it was like life. So if that was the original of what they were going for, who knows? But that's what we're, as viewers, that's what we're going
that is
with.
how we're
That
interpreting it.
she represented control. And so I enjoyed Lars because he was just kind of the outsider that reacted in the most human way possible, in my opinion. Now, because comparatively, like Connie, she was just the bestie, right? She was super accepting. She was, hey, I'm in this for you. Things are weird, but I'll figure it out as I go. Like, I'm here for you. I'm your support. You got, Greg being the dad. He's already used to it because, again, your mom's an alien. I've expected this. This was already expected. The Gems have been with me for, the better part of their time on Earth. So it was very, he was used to it. A lot of the older individuals of the town, same thing. Like, they've already been there. Like, it was kind of like I wouldn't say secret, but it was more of a like, we know that they're there, they're not really harming anybody, it is what it is, right? The issue didn't really start coming until later. Right, they kept to themselves. The people who visited, and I was like, oh hey, there's the weird guy who with the sort of kind of weird end of like whatever, right? But you had people like Lars, who was like, yo, this is weird, my guy. Like, this isn't okay, kind of weird. This is like, you need to do a little bit more, like keep it to the chest, like keep yourself safe kind of deal. What was his co-worker's name? Crap. What was her name? Sadie. Sadie was kind of the acceptance with reason. So she's worked it out and being like, okay, she's already checked all the boxes of all the stuff that's been going on. Like, no one's really harvesting. She's like, it's not really that bad. You just like it, just kind of let it be, right? And Lars is just like, what do you mean, just let it be? But because Sadie's like, that's his girl, and he's just like, all right, fine, right? But to have him go from, it's like, don't drag me into these shenanigans, Steven, you're kind of weird, can you go away? But like, you won't, and so I just have to deal with you, to more accepting of, it's like, all right, you're a person like that he values his time around, kind of that you don't know what you have until it's gone. So like, when Steven's like MIA, he starts to notice like, okay, you took up more space than I was willing to accept in my life, and now that you're not here, it is weirder than it was with you here taking up said space. So let's go back to the weird I know. Right. Let's go back to the weird I know. The whole incident that leads to him, dying and then being resurrected and then becoming, Gurren Lagann space captain. He has his whole adventure, but we don't get the benefit from that. It's just kind of, he's on his adventure. He's trying to find his way home. doing the vigilante piratey thing to make his way back, right? And they do have some time with him when they meet the off colors and all that, and they have that back and forth. But there really wasn't a hey, him coming to terms better, because it was kind of like, now don't get me wrong, I probably might be missing an episode. It's been a while since I've seen this, but what I remember is just kind of the incident, him getting revived, him kind of like panicking, and it's just like, all right, it is what it is. I'm alive. I just have to accept that. And then it is, you see him as the kind of like the pirate captain and all of the off colors. And then like, he's been on the run. He's been he's stolen a ship, for Christ's sake, at this point. Big dog, what have you been doing? Yeah,
He'd be pirating.
He'd be pirated. It was it's definitely a interesting thing. And so one of the points of contention that me and Shimsham had was the unreasonable reactions to certain things. So what we were talking about was that some of the characters in for the discussion of what we were talking about Steven and Connie being not the right level. So you have Steven going up going through everything, he's had so many near-death experiences, blah, 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 blah. And they bring Notion to that when he goes to see Connie's mom and the doctor, and, like, his powers are out of whack. And she's like, hey, you... And she's, like, doing the general questions. She's like, hey, what's been going on? It's like... And he lists all these things of these high-stress situations, right? And how it is literally sending his powers out of whack due to, like, the physiological interaction with his human half and his gem half. And so it's like, okay, cool, right? Then you have Connie, who for the most part is going through all of these things with Steven and going through whatever, but then her mother is the obstacle, right? So we were having a back and forth, being, it was like, that having someone who, has a power role over you inhibits you from doing certain things. They will always be this obstacle mentally or whatever, right? This was a whole like day conversation, so I'm not going to go well too deep into it. But the main points of it was being that it's like, if you like, and he used like the example of like a bully. Like, when you're dealing with a bully, you will always seem powerless no matter what else you've done, and that person who is the bully, whoever it may be, the parents, some random kid, whatever, like whoever it is, in this case technically Connie's mom is her bully, right? Mm-hmm. Because she is essentially forcing her will of what she believes Connie's life should be onto her, and she has no idea what's actually going on. And that's like that point of contention between those two characters. And I was like, I understand that. And, we have a conversation about like our stuff and like that, because me and Shimsham are childhood friends. So we met back when we were young, like first grade. So me and him been through the trenches together. And so we were like, yeah, we've had our fair share of the troubles or whatever. And I was like, yeah. Now, this is where that argument falls apart. Because what you're expecting me to believe is that this mental block of having, a bully and feeling powerless supersedes your baser survival instinct of just biology, right? So Connie has literally been in a situation where she's almost drowned. She's been in multiple high stress situations. Like her training with Pearl was very high stress because the training was as if was as if she was, you know, going to take your life, because that's the point. Yes, she's in a lot of fights, a lot of things that are, the intent is to take her life. She is in this sense of high survival mode, right? When she gets her eyes corrected because of Steven and she's wearing the fake glasses, she's using that. She uses that to then like hide it from the fact, like from her mother, but then also uses that to prove the point that her mother does not know what is going on with her. Like, she's blind to the reality due to her own biases and all of that stuff. And she's like, I haven't worn actual glasses for months. So like, these are just the frames. Like, you don't even realize this. And this is the time where she's trying to, and like, this is the time where she's like, I'm trying to get us out of this situation. And so my issue with that scene was they still wrote the mother as if she knew better. Like, she still didn't believe Connie. And I was like, that is unreal-fucking-listic. Because you cannot make me believe that double dose survival mode, right? You have your survival instincts kicking in of, oh, I need to get out of here and whatever. But you also have the paternal instincts kicking in, yelling, oh, we need to get out of here or whatever. Now, if your child comes to you, say, and not just in a normal circumstance, your child comes to you saying that I've been training and doing these things with a literal alien boy and other aliens that you are aware of that exist and have seen the aftermath of these attacks on our city, that I'm coming to you and telling you that give me my weapon to defend ourselves, to get us out of this situation, and yo dumbass is saying no? Nah. No. Like, you can be reserved about it, fine. But you're not telling me some mom's going to risk her being like, no, you couldn't know these things, with literal zombies beating down the door.
You're right.
It was like, so yeah, so that was like a high contention thing. Whatever. Like, he was like, but this, like, and I was like, no, like, you're not going to get me to believe that, because what you're trying to get me to believe is that they're ranking her ego higher than her baser survival instincts, which, according to psychology, you have to clear the first level first before you can even worry about having an ego.
That ego be that strong?
Apparently, but I'm like, all right, but she's supposed to be this highly intelligent, highly analytical individual of a doctor, but she can't even see that her daughter is the literal badass of martial arts. Like,
smart when it comes to the medical, dumb when it comes to the personal.
Egregiously so. And then to add like insult to injury, later on, they have the episode with like them meeting the parents, and then like they join sides of like, oh, you guys shouldn't do these kinds of things, that's dangerous, blah blah blah. They literally lied to your face for the whole interaction of this, and you want me to just believe that you are just now playing buddy-buddy with them because they happen to say the same things as you? Like, this woman irritates me. So, if you haven't guessed, Connie's mom is my least favorite character.
Who would have guessed?
And he's like, who would have thought? So, yeah. And then we will leave the other half of the whole Diamond arc for part 2. So, if you do not want to miss out on part 2 of this lovely and highly energetic episode, show discussion, what have you, be sure to join the Patreon. The link will be in the description. It is also in our various bios on the socials. And we will see you on the next one.
See you next time.